All right, good evening to everyone that came out to the real estate meeting tonight. My name is Eddie Williams. My business partner, Mark Maupin, and I, we've been putting on these monthly free real estate training seminars. Started about almost 1 year ago exactly. Tonight, we're really fortunate to have Mr. Derek Scruggs with us. Mr. Scruggs has been doing real estate for 25 years now, and he has done approximately 200 flips. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Scruggs.
How's everybody doing today? We got an intimate setting here, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Just got an intimate setting, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. That way you have a better idea of what I did, how I learned the business, you know, how I can possibly help you guys out. The information that, excuse me. The information you're going to get from me today or whatever. Like I said, I started doing real estate in 1996. I started reversed. We started in the mortgage business. So from 1996 to 2000, from 1996 to 2008, I worked in the mortgage business. During that period of time, I learned a lot about mortgages, how real estate worked, and I started buying houses back in like 99, 2000. So from 99 to 2023, I either buy houses, apartments, flip them. I do renovations. So that's actually exactly what I did. I did it 10 more times. I didn't do all 2 families. I did single families, I did multi-families, whatever. So we went from a 2-family back to a single family, back to a 2-family. Then I went to a 4-year, and in a span of about 4 years, I got to about 70 properties. So from like 97 to 2001, 2002, me and this gentleman named Chris Shaw, we actually got to about 70 properties between us. Me and him, he would basically collect the rent. I would do the renovations. I would basically find the property. I would come to the seminars. I would do a lot of legwork, and he would basically collect the rent. He would find the tenants, and from that point, we created a business from zero to, I think we were grossing about $35,000, $36,000 a month. We probably had a positive cash flow, probably about $12,000, $13,000. We did this in about 5 years. But what happened was, and this is why I say, you know, sometimes your failures can be your best learning lesson. So with that growth and we moved kind of fast, I really didn't take time to do all the research, do all the due diligence that I need to do. So what happened was, at that time, that's when they had adjustable rate mortgages. So you could buy the houses with like an arm, and what happens is 2, 3, 4 years, they would adjust. Well, nobody really told us that they was going to adjust, so we were doing them on a low payment. So let's say we had a payment on a house that used to be $300. Once it adjusts, you couldn't refinance because there's no equity left, because initially when we bought, we took most of the equity out. In 4 years, now we're in a situation where a payment goes from $400 to $900. So it's more than what we were actually bringing in. So I say all that to say that when you do this business, you want to do it slow and steady. So create a map or a plan or a success board. If you do that the right way, you won't have problems. So coming to events like this is probably the best way. Try to network with the people around you, because everybody got different information. I have information from my background, from accounting, from actually buying and selling real estate. We ran a mortgage company for 12 years. I've probably flipped and bought and sold and flipped 200 houses. My story is a little different, and it has a lot of success, but it also has a lot of failure. I always tell people, sometimes you fail your way to success. So I'm a much better and more seasoned and astute businessman now with the failures I had than I did before, because I didn't really think that you could have these problems. So there's 3 things you want to do if you want to get started in real estate. One is, what's your plan? Do you want to buy and flip real estate? That's different than buying and renting. The reason why I say it's 2 different strategies is because your rehab strategy is different. Because when you try to flip a house, you want to create a wow factor, so your cost or your technique's going to be a little different. If you try to rent a property, you want to keep your costs down as low as possible, because the fact is you're going to have turnover, so you're going to basically figure that situation out. So what I would tell you to do is, if you just get started, look at Sunday's paper or look on Zillow, look on Trulia, and find properties that's for rent. Act like you want to rent them out and go look at what if you're renting a $900 property, see what a $900 property look like. You want to make your property just a little bit better than that $900 property. If you're going to flip property, you want to look at a $130,000 property, you want to make your property a little bit better than that $130,000 property. Because what happens is, Detroit only got 600,000, 700,000 people. So it's the same people that's going around looking. It's not like we got a mass influx of people coming in. So it's the same people that's buying, it's the same people that's renting or whatever it is. So what you want to do is you want to create some kind of uniqueness about your situation. So our unique was, we would always make sure that the fact that all our properties had Bluetooth in them. Bluetooth fans in them, or they didn't have Bluetooth fans, then we make sure the fact that they were all hardwood floor. So we had a unique strategy, so all our houses were done exactly the same way. And from that point, we created scenarios. You want to make sure that if you probably can, if you're trying to do rentals, you want to make sure you go get a rental inspection, because you want to have every possible avenue you can have to be able to cover. It's a cost up front, but what happens is it gives you more confidence to be able to know you're doing the right way. Trying to estimate whatever it is, because all the money is coming in from the rentals is not all proper, right? You normally got taxes, you got insurance, you got maintenance. Try to keep your budget of all that particular situation set to the side, so that way you know exactly where you're at throughout the process. Because what happens is when you first start, you don't have a plan. Coming to an event like this, try to network, figure out where you're at, then go from there. So I will tell you, if you started, I show hands, how many people have flipped at least one house? Show hands, how many people did their first one? I'm sorry, what's your name? Okay, Chris. What was your biggest issue that you had on your first flip?
Well, we live in Westland, so it has nothing to do with it.
Now, this is what I tell people. I know this may sound...
I need you to repeat the question.
Okay, the question is, I asked him what was his biggest learning lesson in doing a property, his first flip. This is something that people don't realize. In Detroit, a lot of times, and I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm not saying it's the wrong way. A lot of times in Detroit, you can get away with doing a lot of property without actually getting an inspection. Once you go to the suburbs, like this, once they see that white truck or they see that work van over there, you're going to probably get somebody knocking on the door, or you get a nosy neighbor or telling somebody working on the property or whatever it is, and you're going to have to pull permits. You might have additional inspections or whatever it is. So you have to adequately be able to put that to your price. So one of the things you want to do is, when you're working with a contractor, ask him if he's licensed. Because with him not being licensed, the fact that now you have to go to somebody else to get it.
So I had a journeyman electrician come, and that's what I found out was, if it's not your primary residence, you have to have the contractor pull permit.
That's correct.
The journeyman can't pull permit.
Nope.
It's got to be a master electrician.
Then you have
That's an
it's
extra
additional
cost,
cost,
you know,
additional fees.
just to pay for him to pull your permit.
And the thing is, he may charge you almost as much as the electrician
That's
because he knows the fact is it has to be done. So when they get you in that situation, it's set there. So what I always ask, in all situations, it's not necessarily you have to have every contractor licensed. You just want to make sure that at least one of your contractors is licensed. Because if you got, let's say, a regular project, you only need a builder to pull all the trades. I mean, as far as, if it's a carpenter, or if it's moving the walls, you put windows in, siding, roof, construction outside, concrete or whatever, all that's going to be done under the building permit. If you got an electrician, he will pull his own permit. A plumber is going to pull his own permit. Heating and cooling is going to pull his own permit. But most of your rehab, most of the time it's going to be done by your general contractor. And normally he will pull his permit first. Then from that point, once he pulls the permit, then the electrician, the plumbers, heating and cooling, they're going to go pull all their permits underneath that particular person. But you want to make sure that at least they have some kind of working relationship. So what I always try to do is I try to have a general introductory meeting. So even if it's on a Zoom call, if it's just a phone call, I get everybody together, because now I can let them know, okay, hey, this is what, because you'll be surprised, contractors like kids to some degree. They will cause problems because the fact that everybody likes working with who they like to work with. So if you work in that contractor and you got who you working with and they don't like to deal with that person, then now it becomes issues. So now you become the mediator. So what I try to do is I try to do introductory meetings and I try to let everybody know that, hey, these are the people that's going to be working on this situation. So if you got a problem with electrical, you got to move a wire, you got to move a plug, move a switch, whatever it is, let that person know. If you're going to change it, you got to put a hole in the wall, hey, let the carpenter know because the fact is he got to come in and change the situation. The communication eliminates a lot of problems. It's a lot of unforeseen situations when you go in a house because if you're in a Detroit house, the house is 75, 80 years old. A lot of times it's stuff that you don't see when you go in there and you get Pookie and Ray Ray doing a lot of your rehabs and behind the walls, it's all kind of stuff. You know, you got plumbing that's not done right, you got electrical not done right, you got roofs where they put on 3 or 4 layers. So these are all things that you go in and you try to find. But what I would tell you first thing starts, find you a good home inspector because what his job is to go out and find out everything wrong. Now, sometimes it's additional items that you may not even want to do anything with, but it's better to know that information up front. And what he's gonna do is give you a report, and it's gonna come telling you, okay, the age of the roof is this, the age of the windows are this, there's peeling paint here, there's possible penetration of water in the basement. These are all things you need to know because it helps you out. What happens is people look at it and say, I got to pay $300-400 for an inspection. But that $300-400 inspection may save you $15,000 down the line because of the fact that you got a cracked foundation wall that you can't see because if I'm selling the house, I know how to hide that. I put some plaster on the wall and I'm basically put drywall panel. You won't see it until the fact that the other inspector come take it. But if you figure it out ahead of time, and you can see if it's new drywall because that's what the inspector is going to make sure come in and figure out. So part of your team should be a good home inspector. And you can use them from home, from property to property. Even though I'm a contractor and I probably rehab maybe 400 houses, I still get an inspector to inspect houses I buy. And the reason why, because I'm going to overlook something because the fact that I'm in a hurry a lot of times. I may look at the big things, but I may be things I overlook. And it's the best investment I have because now I can take that report, I can go back and now I have a written documentation that I can negotiate with the seller and say, hey, look, you know what? This wasn't disclosed to me, so hey, look, this foundation issue, hey, yo, electrical box is only a 60 amp and we need to upgrade it. Everything is on 2 prongs. These are all issues that you want to basically be able to have in your Rolodex to be able to get that situation set up. So one of your main things if you're going to do a lot of rehab, even if it's residential, if you're doing rentals or if you're doing flip, you want to have a inspector because the fact is if you don't do this every day, it's going to be a lot of stuff that just come to you. You just don't come. I went to a house today, big house out Palmerwood. I mean, a house got to be 4,000 square feet. And you would think that, look, he has fixed this house. The lady said she paid $65,000 so far. I mean, everything that you would probably think of that's wrong with the house is wrong with it. And the fact is the guy said he finished the house. So just because the fact that the guy got a hammer in hand and nails, they got some Carhartts on them, you know what they're doing. So it's 2 things I tell people to do. If you probably can, if you hire contractors, and what's your name? Rob.
Yep.
I'm quite sure Rob will tell you that if you're a decent contractor, you're working somewhere right now. So what I typically do is, hey, if you're a contractor, I ask you, hey, do you mind if I come look at some of your work right now? And the reason why that is because the fact that he can't lie about what you see. If the job is sloppy, if it's a situation where the fact is it's not organized, there's stuff everywhere, you can basically see how that's going to go. So what I typically do is, I'm always interviewing, I'm at Home Depot, I might be at Lowe's, I might be at one of the trades, Murray's Lighting, or I might be at Wyoming Plumbing. I'm always interviewing new people. But what I try to do is, if I'm asking, hey man, look, sir, do you mind if I come to one of your jobs, see what you're doing? That way you can tell me what you did, how you did it, and then what's most important, people don't realize is how much you can charge for that particular job. Because now if I go and I look at it and I say I got a hot water tank and you took it out, you had to repipe this whole house, and it's a similar house that you can do. Now you can start building your budgets up to figure out what it's going to cost. Well, the certain things are going to be fixed in materials. And I ask, I say, when you give me a price, do you give me a price for material and labor, or you give me a price just for materials? When you first get started, I tell people, buy your own materials. Contractors are notoriously bad at getting materials for houses for some reason. Either they miss budget or the fact that the money don't actually get to the job or whatever it is. So what I typically do is I do what they call a foam pad. And the phone thing is with Home Depot and Lowe's, you can set up to become a pro customer. So what happens is I pay for everything. Normally, when they send it, I get a receipt right then and there so I can see the scope of work, what they bought, if they bought anything that wasn't billed, what's supposed to be on there. Now, and then what I do is, once it's paid for, I try to make myself to go over and look at it, make sure everything got in the house. Because what happens is, in a day or 2 or 3 days, when you go by there, a lot of that stuff is not there. So one of the things you gotta do, you gotta trust but verify. And people say, okay, well, it's overkill, but remember, it's your money. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but these little things are situations I learned over a period of time. If I buy something, either I'm gonna go over there or I'm gonna have somebody else go look at it, make sure that from the time that they took the stuff and it's dope. Now, I ain't looking at every item. I just wanna make sure the bulk of the item. It's supposed to be a vanity, a toilet, a faucet, and at least most of that stuff is there, so that way I can figure out. So in case the contractor does leave, and at least I got my materials. Most people will tell you, you lose more money on materials than you do on the contract itself. Another thing you're going to do is, one thing you want to do is this, even though you don't know how to write a scope of work up, try to get something where you can detail the payments out or whatever it is. And I try to pay most of my contractors in arrear. And what I mean by that is, let's say I got a $10,000 house, $10,000 job. $3,000, $4,000 would be materials, correct? So now I only really got a $6,000 job. So I may give you $1,000 up front to start because that's the start. And then I'm gonna have incremental payments every week or every 2 weeks based on the progress. Don't use photos. Most people send photos. I try to take photos because contractors can mysteriously put that photo to where it looks like stuff is done, but it's not really done. So what I try to do is I try to use video. So if you shoot me a video, I can basically see pretty much what everything is. So you make sure that you put into your, and then try to write a contract. You can go to AI or whatever it is, get your general contract, and make them sign that particular contract. And then what it does is it's going to tell you when I'm going to pay, when I'm not going to pay, if it's a dispute, how do we cover the situation, who going to buy materials, who going to be responsibility if it's not done. Then also it's going to give you a general timeline of the time the job is supposed to be done. What I mean by that is, if you start a project, you want to have some type of end date. So if you start a job today, you want to say, hey, look, the job will be done in 45 or 60 days. Well, if it's not done in that 45, 60 days, somebody should be held accountable for that, right? So what I typically do is this. I give everybody grace period because things happen. So if you got a 60-day job and it takes you 65, maybe 70 days, I'll give you 5 days, 7 days because of whatever it is. But after the 5th, 6th, or 7th day, then it should be some kind of financial punishment for that particular situation. Because what happens is contractors, they start a job and then they go to another job. So what happens is your job becomes secondary because the fact is they got to appease that other person and then they come back to you and become secondary. But what happens is documentation eliminates a lot of conversation. So if you got your contract, you got your scope of work, and then you got your certain intervals that you're going to pay people on, then they know, okay, by Friday, if I don't get this particular situation done, I don't get a payment. And you got to make that a non-negotiable. Because what happens is they come on Friday and you don't have any communication. They say, well, we did this, this, and this. Well, that's not what we discussed. So you want to make sure that at least when you first get started, have a conversation. Pay somebody else if you don't really know what you're doing to come in and inspect the property. So what I used to have is I would go to like Home Depot, I would go to Lowe's when I first got started, and I would find guys in that area. So like most of the guys that in Home Depot, Lowe's that's working in that area, a lot of them are skilled guys. So if it's a painter, he might know how to paint. If it's an electrician, if you go to the electrical shop, they're gonna find somebody. And I always tell them, hey, look, I'm gonna use you as a contractor, or can I pay you to go inspect? Because you don't really know what you're looking for when you first get started. But pay somebody, it's a little cost for it. But what happens is, during that period of time, you can be educated at the same time. Okay, this is a 2-prong, this is a 3-prong. Why don't we put GFIs? Where should GFIs go? But what happens is it helps you to increase your knowledge base. It's a cost, but it helps you to be able to have more knowledge when you're talking to other people. That makes sense? So, first thing is like, you want to get you, find you a good private inspector. That way you can have somebody inspect out. Then after that, when you try to first get started, try to get 2 or 3 estimates. Because it's gonna be a scope of work that's gonna be different. And you may get a father son price, you'll get an in the middle price, and then you'll get a Pookie and Ray Ray price. And the reason why I say this is this. When you first get started, you're gonna find out how many people on the team. That's most important because like this, a Pookie and Ray Ray price is totally one person. He trying to do everything. Not saying he can't do it, but guess what? He got limitations. He got limitations on time. He got limitations on energy or whatever it is. Most contractors you might be able to get 5, maybe 6 good hours of work for him. So if you look at it, if he's working by himself, he can only do 5 to 6 hours worth of work. So what I try to do, and it's a cost, but it saves me time. My goal is I pay a runner to take all the materials to all my houses. So I was just telling you guys when you first get started, you may not have a truck, you may not have a situation, but when my contractors get there, their job is to start working. They don't have to go to Home Depot, they don't have to go to Lowe's, they don't have to go to places like that because what happens is they use that as part of their time that, hey, look, I have to go to Home Depot, I have to go to Lowe's. And most of them, for some reason, they go in the middle of the day. And I'm quite sure everybody knows it's busy in the middle of the day. So what I do is I order all my stuff online. So you used to start setting stuff up when you use your pro account, order all your materials online. It should be ready for you. And then the fact is, they got jitneys, runners, whatever it is. You go to Home Depot, it's somebody you can find that will be able to deliver materials to your house or whatever it is. Have it there when the contract is there. You'll be surprised that extra hour or two that they get every day, and you do that over a week, that's 10 to 12 hours worth of extra work that they get taken care of, and they don't have to worry about it. Because like I say, they don't do it the way they're supposed to. And then you get a good contractor, he gonna schedule it out, whatever it is, but now it's just an additional time parameter he don't have to worry about. So what I try to do is, when I'm doing my initial job, I only give them a material cost, right? I mean a labor cost. So when you first get started, add them for labor only. That's all you want to do. What's your labor cost? Because materials you got to pay for anyway, but you can control that because in fact you're buying your own material. And then from that point, now all you really have to do is say, okay, hey, look, what will be done every week? The 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, the bigger the project, the longer it's going to take. But you have to be able to get realistic time frames on the job because like this, a contractor can tell you your job can take 15 days when it should be able to take 5 to 6 days. The reason why I tell you 15 days is because you just know the fact is he will work on 3/4 of the job, so your job is going to be not going to paramount. So you can control that outcome a lot easier by saying, hey, look, do you think you can get this job done in 7 days? He may say it's going to take 8 days. You're close to that predicament of what you want to get taken. So if you don't get it done in 8 days, what's going to happen? Everybody know? The going rate is about $50 a day, $50 to $100 a day. Depending on the size of the project or whatever it is, it should be set up. So what I try to do is I give everybody a grace period.
I need you to repeat that question.
What I said was, it should be some kind of financial punishment if you're not finishing on time. And I was asking, what's a general fee for you not having it? I typically do $50 to $100 per day. The bigger the job, the bigger my fee is. So if I know that you're in a situation and I know you got me caught up into a situation, I'm gonna charge you $100 a day. If it's a smaller project, I'm gonna charge $50 a day. But if you communicate with me, everybody have issues, right? Trust me. You know, car breakdown, sick, family, whatever it is. And you don't want to be sick every day, but if you run into a complication, hey, look, my car is down, this happened, or whatever it is, hey, I'm gonna need an extra 2 days, let me know in advance and we can negotiate that. Just don't tell me on Friday when it's supposed to be done on Friday, and in fact, now you just not having a conversation with me about it's not done. So half the battle is communication, and you have to be the agent of change to make sure your contractor is working with. Because most people, in general, they just get a contractor money, and then they come back in a week and nothing's done. Always understand, you trust but verify. If a contractor's supposed to be there, not ask them. This sounds kind of funny. They're not on time schedule. If I ask them, what are your hours of operation? When do you typically get to the job? And the reason why I ask them that is because I try to come in the middle of the day. So if their hours are like, I normally get there at 10 and I leave at 6, well, I may come at 1 o'clock. Well, at 1 o'clock, I just want to come to see, okay, well, who's there? Now, if you're supposed to have 3, 4 people, and it's only one guy there every time coming in, well, there's 2 problems you're going to have. One is, I know I'm not going to get the work done, and 2, the fact is now, I might need to make a change in that particular situation, because in fact, if I go by there 2 or 3 times, and it's supposed to be 3 guys working, and 1 guy there, then in fact, I know it's going to be a problem with my productivity. That makes sense? So, try to always ask, okay, what time are you gonna be there? I really don't care. You can work. I got contractors that, you know, they got second jobs. So a lot of my electricians, plumbers, they full-time electricians, plumbers, they work, so they work at night. I have no problem with that. Just tell me what time you're gonna be there, so that way I can at least come by that one. Plus what happens is, when I go by there, they know somebody at least holding them accountable. And when I get there, I ask them, okay, what did you get accomplished so far? Not that I'm really trying to figure it out. I just want them to know that if I'm asking them questions to make sure that they know, okay, that if you don't have something done, the next time I come, it's going to be a problem. So these are all things that you want to basically put into your checklist of stuff. One, you want to know time of operation, what they're going to be there. How many days they're going to work? Because not everybody's going to work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week. It might be a 4-day work week that they get there. So, okay, if they don't work 4 days a week, okay, you know what day is going to be there? It could change. All I ask is, okay, if I come by one of these 4 days and you're not there, I know that at the end of the week or at the end of the job, we're going to be behind, so I need to figure that situation out. So I try to make an alternative. I try to get 2 bids on every job. And what I mean by that is, I at least got a backup in case this first person don't do what he's supposed to do. So if I got an electrical job and it's 10 days into the job and he only halfway done and he's going to be done in 10 days, well, I got another electrician that I got with a similar price or whatever it is. That way I can cost in scenario. So that's why you want to control your materials, because you got the materials, you only paid out a certain amount. Remember I said you're paying in arrears. I'm only giving a small deposit, and then as it incrementally works and does work, I will be able to give them more money. And I try to make my payments, you know, amicable for them, you know, so it could be Zelle, whatever they want me to do to try to make sure they get that. I try to deal with cash, and the reason why I don't deal with cash because like everybody get amnesia. You may write it down, but they don't. So I try to pay all my contractors, check, cash out, some way, some form of payment, that way I can document it so when we come in again, they can do it, because contractors, they don't know what. You look at it and next thing you know, they're telling you, oh, well, I'm short $200. No, that day you asked for cash out when I said you did. You asked for $500, I said you did. And you already have, you know, explicit instructions on when you should pay and how you should pay. But always going to be objections that happen, they need money in the middle of the job. You work with them as long as work gets done. So that's why I try to stop by. As long as I'm seeing productivity, I'll work with you. If I don't see any productivity, then we don't really have nothing to conversate about. Let me ask you guys a question. In this room, who wants to flip? Well, I'm gonna give somebody a big secret. You want to buy, and I know it's maybe common sense, but most people do it opposite. You want to buy the worst house in the best area. People do it opposite. They buy the best house in the worst area. You can't change that area. You can change the house, right? So you can bring the house up. So if you're in a bad area, it's hard to bring it back. So make sure that you do the research. If you flipping houses, 75 to 85% of the buying audience are women. So if you doing it, you are your own best customer. Ask yourself what I feel comfortable with, or what I feel safe with. When you're doing the rehabs and whatever it is, your finishes and whatever it is, it's going to be the same things that other people see. So you want to make sure that you see it. And your contractors, they see it from a holistic point of view. What I mean by that is, we did everything. That last 20%, what we call the finished work, is where all your problems come in. Most women have good eyes or whatever it is, so you're the ones who want to go in and look at stuff. And what I start doing is this. Once I get to about 75, 80%, I blue tape stuff. So get you a blue tape or a marker and start marking off where you see areas. Don't wait till it's time for them to get paid and then you come with this big laundry list of stuff that needs to be done. So that's why you want to basically get to your projects on a regular basis. So that way you can see stuff, have a conversation. Well, why are you doing this way? Or if you have a question, find somebody, a confidant or whatever that you know that you can ask them, well, this don't look right. Sometimes the eye is telling you what's not right. You can look at stuff and say, well, it's not right, sir. Let me figure it out. So if you can, try to look at the job. So like drywall, plumbing, anything that you can see that maybe not look right, just look blue tape off or have an explanation to them on why this is getting done. What happens is it lets them know that you have expectations. I'm trying to write a clause in all my contracts and like that, hey, I will start blue taping your project once you get to about 80%. And blue taping is just blue tape. You see any imperfections, you see any problems, whatever it is, just put a tape piece mark on there. And what happens is it reminds them that they need to address that issue. you'd be surprised that a lot of times nobody says anything, and then the fact that now you're ready to finish the project and all these things you weren't satisfied with, but now the contractor's mad because he's like, why you didn't say anything? Well, when you go through the project, just look at it, blue tape, figure out the situation, say if you don't blue tape it, just take your pencil and just circle it, whatever it is, because there's going to be some imperfections. Remember, contractors looking at stuff from a holistic point of view. They go in there every day. They overlook a lot of stuff. And it's not their fault. The reason I say that, I'm a contractor myself, and I overlook a lot of stuff. So if I'm doing a rehab, I got another guy to come blue tape my house just to make sure that I'm seeing stuff to make sure stuff is taken care of. So that's what I'm telling you. Blue tape is a good way for you to be able to get a good finished product, and also to hold your contractors accountable, because the fact is you let them know that you got expectations. You'd be surprised. People go through a whole job and they never say anything until they get finished. And then all it is a murmur in the back, like I'm dissatisfied or whatever. Just have a conversation. Everybody knows what it is, and you'd be surprised. A lot of the people that you deal with, they want to be told what people want to be led. So if you tell them that your expectations are here, they're going to come up to that expectation. If you don't give them any expectation, it's going to be right in the middle. And then now you're going to be dissatisfied. Always you get what you pay for. So if you tell them what you're looking for and how you want it to be done, most of your contractors are going to come to that level. Whether it's electrician, plumber, whatever it is, you just want to make sure that you're telling them what you expect, how things should go, and next thing you know, your project goes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about flipping houses. When you first get started, and I'm quite sure, in the Metro Detroit area, people see land bank houses, whatever it is. Try to stay away from houses. You want to get into what we call quick and clean rehab. And what I mean by that is, you want your rehab to be mostly cosmetic. You don't want anything structural. So if it's a foundation issue, roof, if it's something that's structural, you want to stay away from that. You want to get in a house that you can get in $15,000, maybe $20,000. Even that seems like a lot. It's not really a lot. You want to get in, you want to be able to paint the house, change doors, update the bathroom, update the kitchen. Most of the time, if you're in the city of Detroit, the furnace hot water tank gone, so that's going to be additional stuff that you're going to have, but it's going to be set up. Anything other than that, what happens is, based on your level of skill, level of knowledge, you tend to overlook a lot of stuff. So basically, when you go into a house, you see that wall tore up, if you see the structural beam coming down, or you see the floor buckle, it's probably some additional problem. Try to stay away from that for your first, second, third house. You want to get to a house where, in fact, you go in there and say, okay, I can live here right now almost, but it's more like a rental. So you want a house that somebody just moved out, or it was like rental, and now you want to turn it into a flip. So it's the worst house in the best area, remember? So always use that as your motto. Worst house, best area. Don't try to do it vice versa. Best house, worst area. Another thing, try to stay with corner house. Corner house got a high break-in rate or whatever it is, so try to stay with corner house. If you do a corner house, make sure you add in for a fence or whatever it is, so that way you have security around the area, because you got 2 to 3 area access points on a corner house. Another avenue that you want to look for is try to stay with a vacant house. So you don't want your house to be next to, or 2-3 houses next to a vacant house, or multiple vacant houses. Because what happens is this: most of the buying audience is going to be women, and they're looking at situations from, okay, hey, do my kids feel certain? I feel this. So always look at it from the standpoint, if you was buying it, if you wanted it, might be a good deal, and it may even be in a good area. It may be the worst house in the best area, but try to stay with a vacant house. So that's my vacant house rule. Also stay away from main streets, 7 miles, 6 miles. The only, if you're on Detroit, like out of drive is kind of unique, but the fact that it's a premium area. But other areas you want to stay away from, Puritan, if it's Finkel, you want to stay away from your main street, because the fact that what happens is normally it's a family buying, so kids, they don't have any blockade to go out and they run out to a main street. It's a lot more speed or whatever it is. So those are my rules. I try to look for first to start. You want to buy the best house, the worst house in the best area. You want to stay away from a vacant house. You want to stay away from the corner house. Then also, let's look at this. Buy light kind of house. What do you think is the most common house is in Detroit? You got bungalow, ranch, colonial. Which one do you think is the most? Bungalow is probably the most common house you have. If you're in certain areas, let's say University District, Boston, Anderson, you'll probably get more colonials, 2 doors, or whatever it is. So you don't want to buy a house that got a lot of ranches and colonials, and me a lot of bungalows and colonials, and then you buy a ranch. It's not in that area. So what happens is this: you want to buy a like kind house. So if you go down the block, nine colonials and nine bungalows, you don't want to buy a single ranch that's there. Because what happens is nobody wants that particular house or whatever. There's a reason why that was at that person's time. At that time, that person's preference to buy that particular house. That makes sense. So you want to have a criteria when you want to buy whatever it is. You want best house. I mean, worst house, best area. Worst house, best area. Stay away from corner house. Stay away from vacant house, and buy like kind house. Then from that point, now you start to build your matrix of what you want to do. What's my budget? Biggest question is how you gonna finance it, right? Do anybody know that's the biggest issue that people have? Everybody first get started. Your credit may be messed up, but it only takes 60, 90, 120 days to get your credit back to the point where you can start getting some kind of credit card, some kind of loan, whatever it is. So you should have two entities when you first start. If you as a person and set your LLC up, you want to build business credit up in your business name, and then you want to have personal credit. As much as you can, you want to have it into your own business or whatever. So every house I own, you got your own business entity set up for that particular situation. I try to build business credit up for that particular situation. So that way I'm not using my own personal finances, whatever it is. That house is basically paying for itself. And then now if I need to leverage for another house or down payment, whatever it is, I got that credit. So set your business credit up as far as that, so that way you can have business credit to be able to figure out because I always tell somebody, people always say you don't need money to buy a house. But you don't need your money, you need somebody's money. That makes sense? And people always tell you, I ain't no money. I ain't never bought a house without somebody having to spend the money. You know? Now, they got all kind of deals where you're doing subject to whatever it is, but you know, for your level of knowledge, understand, you're just looking for a house that's easy to rehab, in a good area, that basically don't need too much work, and the fact is you can flip. Anybody know what a good profit potential is? People sometimes have an unrealistic expectation on profit. What do you think a good profit is on a house? You bought a house for $80,000, what do you think a good profit is?
Go would be 40 to me.
I was about to say
40.
40.
Say you know, I would say, I shoot, when I buy a house, I shoot 25% profit. So if it's 80,000, I'm looking for $20,000. That you want to stay between. You know, you got your better deals with the fact that you can find it, but most times you got working with a firm job, you got working with a wholesale or whatever. So you got to get that better deal when you first get started. You get the deals that's available. So if they on the market, then they're gonna price that a little higher, whatever it is. So what you want to do is figure out after I do my repairs, holding costs, whatever, can I still make this? Don't get emotional. It's always numbers, right? Figure out right enough. We should have your little sheet, whatever it is. I think Mark got a spreadsheet that he has that he can send to you guys, and you just put the numbers in it. So the average repair value is $100,000. I'm buying it for $55,000. You put $15,000 into it, so I got 70. I'm gonna have miscellaneous costs between title, closing, whatever. That's another $5,000, whatever it is. But I'm still netting my $25,000. So make sure that you do that and write it down, because what happens is it's power in the written word. Even to this day, when I get ready to do a number, I do a spreadsheet to make sure I got the situation. And I'm adding 10, maybe 15% for cost overrun, for delays, for stuff I can't, unforeseen situations, whatever it is. So what can happen in real estate will come and do it. So try to figure out that, you know, put a 5, 10 to 15% variance in there for cost overruns, for time delays, for hidden stuff that you don't know about, or whatever it is. You'll be surprised. What can happen will happen in real estate. Because you put it in there and you still got your 25, 20% market, it's a good deal. So when you first get started, figure out. Another thing I'll tell people, when you first get started, try to buy your area. The reason why that is because you may be getting a good deal on the east side, but trust me, on the east side, and remember I said trust but verify, on the east side on a regular basis, trying to verify that one situation you got. So what I tried, when I first got started, I would buy houses in maybe a 4 or 5 mile radius. I lived on the west side, so I wouldn't go past Telegraph, and I wouldn't go past, let's say, Woo. I lived right in the middle, right off 7 Mile. So I wouldn't go past 8 Mile, and I wouldn't go past maybe Finkel. But all my houses I bought from my first 10, 15, I didn't really go past that particular area because I knew that if I needed to get to the house, I wanted to be able to get there, and it was in my normal drive time. Big mistake I bought a house out and bail bill. Killer deal. Foreclosure, guy called me, knew I was in business, whatever it is. But I live in Detroit. Bail bill is a long ways away from me to go. Well, these are issues you want to. Guess what? Your contractors don't want to go way out the bail bill. So now you got to find contractors that's in that particular area where you don't have any relationship with them. So now you got to start that particular situation all the way. So if you buy your area, you control your area, your contractors probably typically going to run the area. So if I'm buying, I'm going to that 7 Mile Home Depot, I'm the contractor that work or come to that 7 Mile Home Depot, so they typically work in the area. Well, guess what? They ain't not working way out of bail bill. Well, the story how I learned that was, like, these numbers houses was valued at $300,000. It was still bought it for $70,000. For the life of me, I could not get contractors to go out there. My rehab doubled from my initial cost because the fact that I went from one contractor to 2 contractors to 3rd contractor. Now, the rule of thumb, every time you add a contractor to your rehab that you don't initially do, you lose money because he gonna come in and he gonna say, well, he did it wrong. Well, whether it's right or wrong, he gonna be held accountable for. So the fact that you gotta take that situation into consideration. So that's why I try to stay in my area so everybody can see it, never out of the situation. And that 45-minute drive, one way back and forth, it became harder and harder. So my 10 o'clock pop-ins, I ain't do my 10 o'clock pop-ins. I ain't going today. Well, I missed a week, and next thing you know, nothing got done. Because guess what? My contractor didn't want to go out there. Then they started complaining to me about gas. So I'm like, man, you got to pay more money, man, because you're going way out in Belleville work. So try to find your little areas. When you first get started, you know, they always say you want to farm your area. You know, when you first get started, start doing banding. The bank side, start looking at houses in your area and just see if any vacant or whatever it is. Knock on the door, if you don't see something, look online, see if you can find out. You'll be surprised, a lot of houses vacant. If you don't see an eviction notice, you might have a tired landlord. Find that house. Remember I said, that's the house you want to get initially because the fact is, it's in a decent area hopefully, and the fact is, if the tenant just moved out, at least you know it's probably functional. You know, you can look on most houses. And I tell people, even before you do it, look at the outside. That's going to give you an indication of what the inside looks like, right? So the windows tore all up, roof look like it's messed up, front door hanging off, concrete all messed up. Inside the house going to look similar to that scenario, so you got to add that into this as well. So I want to find a house that at least look, you know, where the grass may be grown a little high, maybe the front porch tech might be messed up, but everything else looks decent. Maybe newer windows. Because these are all high ticket items. Roof, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. Average house got 20 windows. 20 windows cost $400 a piece. If you buy them, put them in, trim them out, that's $8,000. You got concrete work, you got to go from the back of the house to the front of the house, that's $10,000. You want to go away and stay away from high ticket items. Remember, 5 things you want basic: paint, carpet, kitchen, bathroom. If you can do your first couple rehabs now, you typically can make money. Plus, what happens is, it limits your ability to loss because you don't really have any major items in it. You could probably paint the house. You know what I'm saying? Worst case scenario, if you have to go in and roll up, you can watch enough videos to figure out how to tape and paint or whatever it is. You know, so you want to get to that situation. But if you got to rewire a house, I don't care what it is. You can go on run that 14, 2, and 12, 2 people out the house or whatever it is. Them things you need a lot of contractors. So what I typically do now, on electrical, what I try to do is update all my plug switches. That way everything looks fresh. So all the time, you know, when most people paint over their plugs, whatever it is, it just makes it look clean. So I always tell people, when you tell your painters to come in, and you seem like it'll be common sense, I tell you, look, cover the plug, take off the plate covers, put these plate covers on, put them back on, whatever it is. Give it a finished look. I make sure I tell them, hey, look, when you're doing this, make sure you paint the basement. It should be 3 colors. It should be 3 tones. Your house should be 3 tones. Anybody know what the 3 tones should be?
Great.
No, 3 tones. You got typically flat for the ceiling. You got sheen on the wall, eggshell, satin, or semi, and then your trim should be pop out. That should be semi-gloss or gloss. But what happens is it gives you that's why I say a 3-tone house. Your ceiling's gonna be flat typically because what happens is the reason why you want to be flat is because it hides all the imperfections. A lot of times the stairs don't show up. The glossy it is, it shows all imperfections, whatever it is. Your sheen on your walls, you want that to be eggshell or satin. Not too bright, not whatever, but it's washable, right? Wall that flat, not washable, whatever. So you want the wall to be eggshell or satin. And then like your trim or your base trim or whatever it is, you want that to be pop, so you make that like a semi-gloss or whatever. I try to change out as much trim as I can in houses because what happens is Remember, these houses 75, 80 years old. They've been painted up 3, 4, 5 times. So what happens is the paint chunk up or whatever it is. So unless you want to go in and sand all that down, it's easier just to go buy 4 or 5 Pro Packs or buy a big Pro Pack and just pop it off and have new paint. So now, what happens, the doorways look fresh, and you got fresh trim on there instead of painting on paint. That makes sense? So these are all little small items you can look at. Change your plugs, change your switches, whatever it is. Spend a little bit more money on your lights. What I mean by that is, if you go to Home Depot and see it, don't buy it. Buy your lights from Amazon or whatever it is. It's just little small things that you can do. And it's typically cheap on Amazon. Your door hardware for your kitchen, buy those off Amazon or whatever. Your kitchen faucets and stuff like that, buy those off Amazon. It's typically going to be cheaper and it's going to be better. So like my go-to faucet now is a faucet that sprays and it's like a light that comes down or whatever it is. I get those faucets for like $90. But in fact, that same faucet at Home Depot might cost me $200 or whatever it is. So these are little small items you want to figure out. If you can, try to buy the ring, get the ring doorbell. When you come in, people come in, look at it, it's just an additional feature. So I typically put a ring doorbell in there. I got a camera on the side, camera in the back, or whatever it is. So now they got protective features. All they got to do is sign in to Neighbor Watch or whatever it is. Everything is covered. It makes sense. These are little small items. Another item that I do on most of my houses now, I do a Bluetooth. The Bluetooth, instead of doing the regular mirror, I do a Bluetooth vanity mirror. I do the Bluetooth vanity mirror. It's the light, whatever it is. And then if I don't do that, then I'll do the Bluetooth extractor fan. So either one or two of them, they come in, it's a little small situation you want to figure out. Instead of glazing the tub, you take the tub out, put a new tub in, because a lot of times the tubs will mess up. But you want to spend your money in your kitchens and your bathroom. That's the things that people want to look at. You want to go in and try to, you want to make sure that you got that set up. So spend money, you can buy a cheap tile. Just make sure the execution of the tile work is good. People always think that it's the quality of the tile. No, it's the execution of them putting it together. Do they have good cuts? Do they have a lot of grout lines or whatever it is? Try to figure that out. That's why I say, anybody that you're dealing with on first time situation, see if you can go to one of the other jobs and look at that. Because whatever he's doing there, that's what it's going to look like. It's not going to change anything. Now, he may be there, but if you look at that and you don't like it, you got to be able to say to yourself, I ain't going to really like that. People, my Angela said something a long time ago. When people show you who they are, you gotta believe them. That person is who he is. So look at it from that standpoint. And if you go to the job and he ain't there, guess what? He ain't gonna be at that job. I had people tell me to come to their job to be there and they ain't at the job. So okay, well, that's a bad sign. I mean, come at 12 o'clock, I'll be there. I call, oh man, I ain't making it today. Okay, well, guess what? He gonna do you the same way. That's another thing you gotta try to go to the job. And I tell them what time I'm coming just to see if they gonna be there. That makes sense. Let me ask you a question. At a show of hands, in a perfect world, if you could find a house right now, would you want to buy, not buy a house. You guys do any color shopping? Because they got color sharks out here that basically, what I mean by, they the hot selling houses, right? So we got three colors we use. A color called elation gray, we use agreeable gray, and we use slate. You'd be surprised, people buy those colors. Take your personal preference out. Sherwin-Williams got a chart. If you go to Sherwin-Williams, they'll tell you the hottest colors. If you can paint outside, find out what color. You'll be surprised. People buy the paint to some of the craziest colors and they wonder why they don't allow themselves. That's going to be the color that you look at it because you want it to be neutral, but you want it to look nice. So I always go to Sherwin-Williams to figure out what color what's the hottest color chart. And that's the color I paint my house or whatever it is. Figure out what sheens I'm looking for, whatever it is. You'll be surprised if you can make that part down, because after you put the kitchen and bathroom, the next biggest thing they're gonna do is look at the paint job, right? Most people will look at stuff from a sight line of what they can see. So when you're looking, you're gonna look from here to there. You're not looking at the bottom. That's your sight line. So make sure that sight line is pretty good when you get it. That's why you wanna make sure you get to the point where you blue tape everything, because the blue tape is gonna see the imperfections, whatever it is, have them go back through, double check it. Have a keen eye, because the fact is, you'll be surprised. You sell the house that on the first day, and you sell the house on the 10th day, it'd be just the fact that it's a little small, little nuance. Our goal is, I want people to go in the house and I want to have a highest and best. And if you have a highest and best, one of the things you want to do is, any house that's in your area, go look at it. If it's a house for sale on your block, your house should be just a little bit better than that house. Because what happens is, that person's going to look at the house. They're not going to tell you, but they looked at the house down the street. So what I try to do is I look at every house that's sold, maybe a block around, and look at it. I mean, I work with realtors all the time, so they give me access to the lot box. And I go in the house and look at it. I say, well, I ain't never seen that before. I'm gonna add this to it. I'm gonna add something similar to that. That way, I can have a wow factor. So that way, when I get ready to sell it, the fact that I'm not looking at, they're not my competition. I'm their competition. Make sense? I'm opening up for a few questions, whatever it is. I do a lot of talking, whatever it is. You got any questions for us? Okay, sorry, man. I'm sorry.
And it's probably like to do that way later. But I like
That's an excellent question. Question she had was like she wanted to know about different alternative types of finance. I'm gonna break it down into about 4 or 5 different sections. You got your own personal money, right? Which, I don't care how much you got, is always limited, right? And you got other people's money. Right? Well, other people's money don't typically come in until you get some type of track record, right? Because nobody want to be a guinea pig and you haven't done anything. People always, you watch every video in the world, but nobody wants to be the first person. You know, your own parents don't want to give you the money when you first get started. It's like, yeah, we know you don't know anything about it. So the thing is this, you got other people's money. But the things you can control is your own credit. So first thing I tell everybody is this, go to Credit Sesame, whatever, pull your credit. You want to have a 660 to 680 credit score. Once you get 660, 680 credit score, you can set an LLC up. You can get American Express, you can get a business line of credit, you can get all these things that's set up. These are all what we call alternative credit. And most of these, it's on your business credit, so it don't show up on your personal credit, right? Because what most people do is they always use stuff on their personal credit and it affects their score because, most of your stuff is always based on your availability of credit to the amount of credit you have. But if it's on your business credit, it never shows up. Well, let me rephrase that. It shows up if you don't pay. But if you paying on time and you got it set up, even just making the minimum payment, you can be maxed out on your business credit, but it never affects your personal credit. So that way, over a period of time, you can add more credit. Next thing you want to do is you want to find 2 or 3 hard money companies. Hard money companies is this. So let's say, for example, the house is worth $100,000. A hard money company will give you 60 to 65%, 60 to 65% of what the after repair value. So let's say the house, let's use round number. House worth $100,000. A hard money company will give you, let's say, $50,000 to buy. But then you try to figure out how do I cover the rehab? Well, they'll give you up to 75 to maybe 75% of whatever the total after repair value is. So $50,000 can be used for the purchase. $20,000 can be used for the rehab or whatever it is, but you may need the other 10. So that's where the other business credit, lines of credit. So the 3 things I tell people when they first get started. Try to get your Home Depot card, try to get your Lowe's card, Menards card, because what happens is most of these people got a net 30, net 60, whatever it is. They got no interest for 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is. But what happens is even if you do got a payment, you only paying a minimum amount until the property gets taken care of, whatever it is. So you should have Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, Floor and Decor. Any of the major places that you can give credit for, because all your tiles or all your stuff that you can get from Floor and Decor. Hell, if you really want to do it, Amazon got a credit card where the fact that you can get an Amazon credit card, you can pretty much buy a lot of your stuff on Amazon, and the fact that they got something where it's 0% if it's Amazon or PayPal. So I got like a $10,000 PayPal where I got 0 interest for 6 months on most of my stuff. So I don't have to worry about paying anything for 6 months. I can just pay the minimum payment. So on $10,000, I might pay $150, $200 a month on that. But what I did is I connected my Amazon, my PayPal card to my Home Depot, so it just comes up and then I pay for everything on that. So when the project is done, I just pay it back. And then as I pay it back, it increases. So one of the main things is this. You want to get all your business credit. So these are 3 things you want to do. You want to basically get your LLC set up, right? So if it's LLC, so let's say it's John Doe LLC. You want to have John Doe LLC. You want to have a separate address different than your personal address, because you want to look like a business. So you want to make sure you have a different address than your personal business. You want to have a different number, so you don't want, because you got to verify who you are. So you don't want to have the same number as your cell phone number as that. So create a separate number for that. Then get you a DUNS number. Once you get to 3, then start building up certain credit lines. And you can start what we call net 30. You got like the gas cards, you got Office Depot, you got different cards you can get. And then what happens is you get what they call a payday score. Paydex and Telescore, these are all scores that it don't affect your personal score. It's all based on your credit. It's all based on your business credit. It takes you 60 to 90 days to build up if you pay on time. Then what happens is you go from what we call the net 30 cards to what we call business credit cards. So now instead of getting, you get a Home Depot in your business name. So when you first start, you go Home Depot, you're going to personally guarantee it. But once you build your business credit up, you got a Home Depot that's in Janet Jackson LLC. You know, so now it's completely separate than whatever it is. So
I was gonna, I don't know if you mentioned EIN number.
oh,
With the LLC.
yeah. So my fault. Support that. It's the tax ID, it's the LLC, the tax ID number, because the tax ID number, it differentiates you from you and your social security number. So the fact is when you fill out an application and doing everything, it should be under your tax ID number, and then you have a DUNS number, and then you start building credit up over that period of time. Everybody got YouTube, right? If you watch a YouTube video, they got video after video after video on how to build business credit. It's not that hard. It just takes a little time. Start today. 6 months from now, if you follow those procedures or whatever it is, you'll have business credit. And then now you got your own personal buying power, and then you have business credit. So it doesn't take time. Most people just like it. It's just like a system. They want everything to happen overnight. But I always tell people, it takes time. It took me from 1993 to 97 to buy my first house. I bought my next 35 in 3 years. Because what happened was, I always had all these doubts, right? That I thought I was making wrong mistakes, whatever it is. But once I bought 1928 Dexter and the money started coming in, I want to do it over and over again. Well, and because what happened was, I saw that it was possible, right? Because the thing is, it's a theory. You buying a house, yeah, that sounds good, but me buying a house different because I never bought a house. Right? So once I bought my first house, it was there. So I always tell people, you plan, you do, and you review. So that's how I set the system up, and you just figure out. So biggest thing is this: once you set that scenario up, just work on it every month. You got it's called nav.com. We got this place called nav.com. It'll give you your personal credit score. I think it's like $39 a month. It gives you a trade line, and it also basically it helps you to be able to see what your business credit score is. You want your payday score to be 80 on your 80, and that's what they consider good. But you want to have 3 or 4 trade lines, and that way you can start to leverage that and start getting everything in your business name. Because that way it's its own entity. The good and bad thing about it is it don't affect your personal credit unless you don't pay. See, people don't realize that you don't personally guarantee it technically, but if you don't pay over a period of time, it will come back to bite you. I learned it the hard way. Because in '96, I was like, but it's not personally guaranteed, so I had to work on it. Well, when I didn't pay that, they figured out that hey, I'm still responsible. So don't try to overextend yourself in this way. But what happens is it just gives you the ability to leverage your buying power. So Derek can only buy $100,000, but Derek LLC can buy $100,000. So now I got these 2 entities going together, and I can build it up. So I started building business credit probably back in '98, '99, and I just when I get to that point and I get that one maxed out, I just set up another one and set up another one. So every property I got is its own entity and own LLC. That makes sense? Good.
My question is, so I got about 10 plus properties.
Okay.
None of them is Section 8 right now, but we're trying to go Section 8.
Okay.
I know you said you had one Section 8. Did you rent all Section 8?
My situation is a little different.
Can you also speak on some of the bad about Section 8?
I'm gonna break it down to you like it never been broke down before. Okay. My first 35 properties.
Repeat the question.
Okay, he was asking me the pros and cons to Section 8. You know, how to get on Section 8, the pros and cons. I told myself I'm gonna give you the good, the bad, and ugly. The first property I bought on 19 acres was just a regular person with 750 up, 600 down. Well, I told you I bought that in 96, 97, so, you know, being able to find information wasn't as easily possible as it comes. Well, what happened was, I just so happened, sometimes I came to an event like this, I think it was, not Mark Moffitt, it was a guy out in, a guy who was at an event, he said, man, you should get Section 8. I'm like, what the hell is Section 8? Well, he told me where I went to, so I went to Detroit House, they got an office on Orleans, I got the address on Orleans. I went down there, and basically, back then, you could fill out the information and put your address for the property you want, and they would call you. Well, I put it in there 1 week, and then 1 week later, I got 30 calls. And then they told me what they had to do. Well, I didn't know about the inspection. Of course, I never did it, so they come out and do my inspection, whatever. Section 8, the bad part about Section 8 is that people have a misnomer that the fact that they tear your property up, they don't fix it. And that's not true. They tear your property up, store it, you get it out. It's like anybody else. A regular tenant getting your property and figure out. Okay, let me tell you how you eliminate that. In my leases, I got quarterly inspections. And a lot of times, I may not necessarily go quarterly, but they expect me going. I make sure I reiterate that to them on a regular basis. Hey, look, we come by every quarter, and I tell them that the reason why I do that is because for my insurance, I got to make sure that the smoke detectors are working, the carbon dioxide testing is working, that there's no broken windows, whatever it is, there's a problem with water. But what happens is people get in the habit of taking the care of stuff. They know they got somebody coming. Well, if you only go once a year, well, in a year, stuff that can happen. I can nip stuff in the bud in 3 months, a lot easier than I can if I wait a whole year, right? So based on when I first get started, I go to the house initially, and then now, with the properties I have, I don't go myself, I send other people to the house to go look at them, and they take pictures. So I'm trying to put in my property. A lot of people don't really want to do it, but I do a quarterly exterior cleanup, right? And that exterior cleanup, so in the summer, when they switch over to off, most of my land, the tenant's not gonna really worry about that. But what I do is I clean up everything. So that way I can check and see about the gutters. Because what happens is, look, the tenant's not gonna clean the gutters out, well, that creates additional problems, whatever it is. I wanna see if it's how the doors looking, the windows looking, how the shades looking, whatever it is. If I see something, I can go ahead and address it. Hey man, we over here, we clean out the gutters, but I see that this window is broke. How did this window get broke? Well, they're not gonna tell you. They're not going to tell you on purpose that they broke window, but if I said I can at least address the situation and I can find out before it becomes a big issue, somebody hurt, whatever it is. So put your leases that you do an inspection. And what happens is it eliminates, now a lot of stuff can happen in 90 days, but what happens is they know you're coming in 90 days, it eliminates you having a whole year's worth of list or whatever it is. So I try to do inspections every quarter. I try to do spring cleanups or whatever it is, and then what I try to do, I do a winter where I make sure I go in and change the furnace filters. I make sure I look at the hot water tank just to check stuff out to make sure everything is good. Because what happens is the tenant, even though you might buy a whole pack of filters, they're not gonna put it in there. So now it's gonna make your furnace run harder, make sure it have damage or whatever it is. So during those period of time, I got somebody to go by, he just look at the hot water tank, make sure it's running there. Make sure the toilet is not proper, make sure they function, make sure the kitchen there, because you'd be surprised, they got a little leak underneath the sink and they ain't tell you about it, now it's damaged the whole cabinet. That makes sense?
Yeah,
So what you want to do is just write all the stuff you tell me, just write stuff down. I'm giving you a lot of information. Just write stuff down and just do a little bit at a time. Biggest thing is this: trust but verify. Whether it's your tenants, whether it's your contractors, whatever it is, just make sure that you tell them what your expectations are and stick to it over a period of time. You'll be surprised. People want to be led. So once you tell them, they'll follow that situation. So if you want to do right now, go online to Mr.gov. They got a list of every Section 8 agency that's out there, from RPI to Lower Sawyer, Detroit Housing, whatever it is. Find your list of them. And then what happens is all of them got what they call a little portal that you can basically put your property in there and people start calling. Once you get that scenario set up, these are 5 things I tell people about why your property don't fail, why I fail Section 8. You need to make sure that all your plugs are grounded. What happens is newer houses, they got 2 and 3 prong plugs, right? So if you got a 2-prong plug, they don't test it, they just test it to make sure it works. But a 3-prong plug got to be grounded. All your windows need to open and close properly, right? You got to make sure there's no peeling paint nowhere around because of the fact that they got the lead paint issue. So most of your lead inspectors, they see peeling paint, they're going to make sure that that's the issue. So make sure that that's taken care of. Make sure that the fact is that your toilets flush properly, whatever it is, and make sure that your faucets, they cut on, cut off, make sure you got water pressure, make sure your shower, make sure you come on, cut off, make sure it's drained properly. You'll be surprised. That's probably the 5 or 6 major things why inspections failed. Plugs not grounded. The faucet is dripping. It's peeling paint somewhere around. You know, if it's in a garage or if it's in the house anywhere around, check that out. So I always make sure to get that set up. If you can get that scenario, I'm doing a secondary inspection now for a house. Guy went through, he moved my house, came through, saw something, went back out because I already know what he's looking for. So make sure you write a list of what they're looking for. You know, of course, the major thing, make sure our doors open, closed. Make sure you got locks on all the doors. Make sure that the bathroom doesn't have a key lock. Just little small items you'd be surprised they're failing. So you want to make sure that you just write your checklist and stuff. If you go online, they got a checklist that you can get to print out and it'll tell you all the things Section 8 looking for. Another thing you want to do for Section 8 is the copay. It's a copay that you can have on Section 8, right? So let's say you're renting, like the house I'm renting now is $1,400, right? Well, how can I say this without saying it wrong? I don't want somebody with no copay. And the reason I don't want nobody with no copay because the fact that typically the differentiation between copay and no copay is more people in the house, right? See, more people in the house tend to do more damage to the house. So you can't discriminate white, black, you know, handicapped, or whatever it is. But I just want a limitation to the amount of people in my house. The younger they are, and the more people in their house, and the fact that nobody working, that to me, over a period of time, I just believe you're gonna do more damage. I don't know about you, but the fact that when you're at home all day and there's 5 kids now, you're typically gonna do more damage. So you want to basically figure out. So you'll be surprised when they come, they're gonna bring their whole village with them. So I tend to try to be there when they do my inspection. So I'm going to look at it. Well, I look at the car. Okay, well, the car about to fall apart. Let me look at that. Then I come in, this 5 kids right now. Okay, well look, hey, this house just got rented. They just got rented. Trust me, that's going to be the biggest issue you're going to have, the amount of people in your house or whatever it is. Because the thing is, the younger they are and the more people in your house, the copay, what happens is a person that's got a copay, they work for most of the time. So it's like this, they got time in, time out, or whatever it is. I've learned over a period of time I had less damage when there's less people in the house and people with shorter copay.
So I had 2 different people tell me 2 different things about the voucher.
Yeah.
Somebody told me if they voucher $1,200, they can still give you such and such on the side to make up what you want. And somebody told me it's against the law.
I'll tell you right now. They ain't tell you about the side deal, man. What happened
the
is,
question.
the side, okay, the question is, can you do a side deal with Section 8? So the question is, let's say the rent is $1,200, but you want $1,400, right? So it's 200 sides. Whatever's not written on that contract, they not liable for. This is what typically happens. You know, like a woman, you know, you find a fracture, right? She gonna tell you what you gonna tell her what you want to do to try to get her to like you, right? Well, Section 8 is the same way. They gonna tell you what you want to hear. Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna make that payment, man, no problem, man. Look, I'm gonna rent $1,400. Man, I only got $1,200, man. My last landlord, he had no problem paying this extra $200. First payment, you probably want to get. But see, technically it's illegal, so you can't tell the agency that you got this copay.
That was my question.
Yeah, see, so you can't inform the agent because it became a legal act, right? Because if you read the contract, it says like that every penny that's taken care of, because they tell you that the tenant paying $71, that's all they're supposed to pay.
I got one more question. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm trying.
No, it's good information.
So also with the vouchers, I know a few people that got the vouchers and they saying like lights and gas got to be included in the money that you're getting. How does that work?
Okay, let me explain to you.
I've seen a couple people get denied like, well, your voucher $1,200, the rent $1,200, that ain't gonna work.
Okay, what happens is this.
Repeat the question.
The question is, with a Section 8 voucher, do utilities have to be included in the rent? I've never ever included water, lights, and gas in my utilities, in my lease. Because when you fill out the Section 8 voucher, like, let's say for example, I told you to go to DetroitHousing.com, right? Or if you go to RPI, whatever it is, they're gonna send you a form, and you put your name, you put the address or whatever it is, and on that sheet it's gonna say landlord pays, tenant pays. If I say landlord pays the water, lights, and gas, then I'm responsible. But if I put on there the tenant pays lights, gas, and water, the tenant responsible for it. I would tell you stay away from that because what happens is people don't appreciate what they don't pay for, right? I mean, I've owned apartment buildings, right? So it's a little different. Like you got boiler, so the fact is, so one boiler heats the whole thing up. That is a situation where I come and the window opens, I'm like, man, what? You know, because what happens, what you don't pay for, you don't appreciate, right? So I tell people when they want, hey, your lawn maintenance is on you. Make sure that you add in your lease that the lawn maintenance, because the grass be high, whatever it is, tell you, look, grass that needs to be cut every 2-3 weeks or whatever it is. Now I do it, I'm gonna charge you for it. Then also make sure the fact that the utilities is there. Make sure also, this is a big thing that most people don't do. When you rent a property, make sure the tenant switch the water into their name, that way they're responsible for it. It's $150 fee, so I tell them ahead of time, I say, hey sir, ma'am, look, when you get ready to move in, you need to spend 24 to 48 hours, you need to go down to the water department, and you need to switch the utilities from my name to your name, and I need to have a confirmation number and the proof that you paid. I need a copy of the receipt of the $150 and the copy that it's been paid, and give it to me, and that way I know it's gonna take care of it. So what happens is, from that date till you move them out, they're responsible for it. You're not held accountable for it at that point in time. If you get it switched over, because the fact is that $150, they're switching it from there because it's in their social security number, their name, or whatever it is, and alleviates you from that. Utilities, I make sure that spend 20, 40, $40 before they move in. I tell them they gotta give me a confirmation number. And I tell them, spend 20, 40, $40 they move in, utilities be cut off. Because what happens is everybody procrastinate, right? Next thing you know, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, I'm gonna get to it next week. No problem, we're gonna be getting to it in the dark. So I make sure I tell everybody all these information. Remember, I say documentation is conversation. So as I tell you this stuff, just write it down and just put it into a form. So I got a form I give people and say, hey, look, these are my rules of engagement. This is what you need to do. So that way, in case they got any doubts, any questions, whatever it's that. So I say, hey, look, you got questions, go back to my room. Hey, but if you don't have rules, I'll tell you. I make sure I tell them written and I tell them verbally. So when I have a conversation with people, I make sure I tell them everything about the maintenance, about the inspection. I tell them about what what I expect to come in, whatever it is. I tell them, because what happens is, if you don't create the expectations from day one, they just come in and create their own, and next thing I got a problem. I even check the utilities on a regular basis, whatever it is, because what happens is, not that you may know about it, but it's still electricity, right? Well, if electricity is stolen, well, you could be held accountable for it because it's there. So what I try to do is, you can have a landlord-tenant situation where they basically, you can have your access to look, make sure the utilities are paid on time. The water bill, you can just go to any of these kiosks. All you got to do is put the address in, and it's going to tell you what the bill is. So they tell you, you got the owner, and then it's going to be a different one where you're going to have it. You can look and see if the water bill is paid. Because you don't want the water to get cut off, because now, in fact, they're going to go back and cut it back off, or whatever it is, they be held accountable for you. So I always tell them, I'm looking just like you look. I can go right there on 8 Mile and Southfield and go right in the water and into the grocery store. I can put my address in and look it up. It's going to give me the water bill to make sure. And also, I do the same thing with DT bill. All I need is the address, and I need the address and the property and the name, and I can look it up and find out if the bill is getting paid. Because people putting shims into houses, whatever it is, but you have a company. So these are all the things I try to check on a regular basis. And I let them know, look, you can handle your bill. I say, look, if utilities get called, the fact is, if I finally give you utilities, it's going to void your lease and you're going to be evicted. I'm going to call the Section 8. So when Section 8 now, I'm going to let them know. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I got one more.
Quick.
I'm ready to start purchasing, some smaller apartment units, like 12 units or something like that. But I met a guy, he owns some, and he said, don't do it. They hard to sell because a lot of people can't afford to just buy an apartment unit off of you. When one unit, something wrong in one unit, probably wrong in a unit under it. What you think about that?
This is what I tell people, man. Anybody been out there? They got a.
Repeat the question.
Okay, he said that people gave him different information, negative information about buying a property, right? They got a Ferrari dealership out there on like 12 Mile and it's in Sterling Heights, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people can afford that, right? Yeah. But somebody buying it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure the person that's probably buying more likely buying that apartment building, that own the apartment building than the people who don't. So what I was telling you, I made more money on apartment buildings than I ever had. I'm gonna give you a story I got. And I'll send you a link on it. I bought a 20-unit building on
4 units.
I bought a 20-unit building on 6 Mile and Latin. Completely vacant. I bought it for $120,000. 20 units. So basically I got it cheap. I'm a contractor. 5 months to renovate. start marketing to veterans. One bedroom typically is a no-no in apartments in hard ground. But what I did was, Volunteers in America, this is a whole different game I'm telling you. I work with just veterans. I had 20 senior veterans in my building paying me $750, so I make $15,000 a month off the building. That's all guaranteed from RPI. So the location of your building, even in the apartment, you want to buy the worst property in the best area. Because if you buy in a bad area, it's still hard to fill up. So I don't know if you got that. What I did was I bought a 20-unit building in 2016. 20 units vacant. I prefer vacant buildings. People don't realize why you want vacant buildings because what I always learned is the owner's selling for a reason, right? And he either put 10 tenants in. I manage 400 properties, so I already know that most times people selling for a reason. And if you're selling at a discount and the property got a lot of what we call repairs, the fact that you know your tenant not paying. So what happens? You got a lot of newer leases. Well, the fact is, you got a lot of newer leases now you run into a new problem. I buy vacant buildings. I want to go in and I want to put my own tenants in there, and I got an ideal tenant. Whereas one bedroom units is not good for you, and more people. I only deal with senior vets, so I typically deal with men that's 60 and up. So let me tell you about men on 60 and up. First of all, they don't complain about it. They ain't not. Don't take this the wrong way. My water bill on my 60-unit building was less than some of my house. Because I got one man in the house, he ain't got water on all day long. You know what I'm saying? So my water bill was my only utility I had because I had put baseboard heaters in each unit. So the only thing I had was water bill and I paid taxes and insurance. So I had $15,000 a month gross. We paid cash for the building, because we have good property, so we paid cash for the building. So out of $15,000, the only thing I had was taxes, which was $3,500. I had electric bill, and we managed our own bill, so we didn't have any property management fee. So out of $15,000, I don't know about you, but I'm netting $11,000 or $12,000. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me, right? Yeah. So remember, always look at who's telling you secret. How many buildings do they own? Did they have success? And then look at the buildings they own. See, remember, I know people who lose money in real estate all the time. It ain't necessarily because real estate don't work. It's the fact that they bought the wrong property. They bought the wrong building. If you use them 5 scenarios, you don't want to buy a apartment building with a lot of vacant houses. Right? That's why I stay away from 4 units. I stay away from 4-unit buildings. Because most 4-unit buildings are in areas that not necessarily bad. They over on West Philadelphia, they over on this. So you got vacant areas, vacant houses, whatever it is. Beautiful houses. And what people do is they do the math. They say, man, it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. I can get $2,500. You can't spend what you can't get. The location is always the key. If you're gonna buy a property building, buy one in areas. This is a nugget that everybody should understand. Most people who live in apartments, in low-income apartments, guess what they don't have? Cars. So what you want to do is, my building on 6 Mile last year, guess what was closer? Anybody know? Myers. It was right there on Myers. People would walk to that Myers. Right there, they had Myers, and they had the little grocery store, they had the little shopping center, they had snipes, they had everything they want. The little liquor store on the corner. So I'm dealing with 60-year-old veterans, right? So guess what? Not saying they got a few problems. They want to go to the store on a regular basis, so they went to the store on a regular basis. They want a baby have situation. Out of the 20 units, 2 had cars. But they didn't care because they could walk. And the police station was right there. So you turn the corner and you walk 1 block, the police station right there, and then turn 1 more corner and then the Myers right there. So always buy in areas where the fact is it's in close proximity to a grocery store, a store, and some metro where they can get on a bus. Because most of my guys, they travel by bus, they walk to the store, or they carpool or whatever it is. Because if I had 20 veterans, I had 2 cars. I had a parking lot, nobody in there. It's a good investment. Location is the key. Always remember that. Location is going to be the key to your success or your failure. So when people tell you that, and then also tenant selection. I found the ideal tenant. I work with Volunteers of America. Write this down. Volunteers of America, Disability Network, and these are all veteran agencies that basically have veterans that, because see, they got a program that most people know about. See, everybody heard of Section 8, right? Have anybody heard of VASH? VASH. Huh? Okay, well, VASH is what it stands for. It's Veteran Assisted Supportive Housing. It's the exact same thing as Section 8. but it's just for Mexico. So RPI is the only agency that does badge inspections. So if you got a property you want to get badged, take your property, put it on there, and you can find your veteran or whatever it is. So I only went after single men that was above 60. They got families, they got everything. So if you go there,
I want to know if you could repeat those programs.
okay, they got it's
Disability?
called BAST. Okay, it's called BAST, Veteran Assisted Supported Housing. So the three main agencies are Volunteers of America, Disability Network, and HAM. These are all agencies that specialize just for veterans. And let me tell you what's so wonderful about working with veterans, as opposed to Section 8. If the Section 8 telling you behind, they don't have payment, whatever it is, normally you just out of luck. Veterans, Volunteers of America, and Disability Network. If my tenant got behind, they got funds set aside to help him recover. So out of that 20 units I got, I ain't had to evict nobody. They paid for their utilities a lot of times, so they got behind the utilities. I would just have to let them know, hey, this person behind the tenant or whatever it is. So they pay for the utilities. If they help them with moving expenses. So for example, a lot of times when they move in a single birth, they help furnish their house or whatever it is. So it's just a good program. It makes you good. You know, if you can make money and do good at the same time, it's a good situation, right? So I love working with that. Me and my partner, we would cook Thanksgiving dinner, we would cook Christmas dinner, so like on those days we would cook and take it down because all these guys, there's a reason why they're 60 and they live in the house by themselves. You know, either they might have a disheveled past, put it like that. And, you know, you look on their record in 1985, they got a criminal record. Well, that was 50 years ago, 40 years ago. Well, a lot of agencies, you'd be surprised, a lot of apartment buildings won't take those people for whatever reason. Well, yeah, think about it, they came out, they were still young in 85 or whatever it is. We didn't have no problem. Now, of course, we had our certain criteria that we were looking for pedophilia and stuff like that, but in normal situation, when they were 30 years old, we didn't have any problem. Because the fact is, the agencies were looking for places to put it in. They were looking for situations to help. So if they got behind, I can always, hey, look, you know what, John, we couldn't pay you $70 this month. He's 2 months behind. Okay, no problem. Give me 60 days, and we pay you that, and we pay a month ahead. Perfect. So let me tell you the best part about that building. Cash flow is king, right? Anybody remember when I told you I bought that building for? 120. Bought the building for 120. We rehabbed it for 100 and come up on 180. So what we had total 300 into it, right? We bought the building in 2016. It took us 6 months to build the building up. And you can Google it, look at it. The address is 16895 Lasher. We sold the building for $630,000. Cash flow is king. Remember, I had all Section 8, I had all bad tenants, right? So I had vouchers to show that we was bringing in $15,000. So when we bought the building, we had documentation showing the fact that we had 100% collected, 100% paid pretty much every month. So when we sold it, we went from 120 in 2016 to maybe 2020, we sold it for $630,000. So not only did we make $180,000 for 3 years, then we sold it for that particular situation. So when you get to the business, document your numbers. So the more you can get as far as tenant tenureship, you know, hard to sell the first year. Once you get to the second year and third year, you got tenants at 3 years old, you got aging tenants or whatever it is, people more likely to pay because the fact they can look at the payment history, and then the fact is also our bank deposit shows the fact is it wasn't just, see cash, what people do is they have a misnomer that, okay, we're not gonna put this cash in the bank. Documentation these conversations, right? So all our money was sent, wire, whatever it is, and we deposited every penny in our bank. So we had 12, 24 months worth of bank records to show when we got ready to sell it. So people were like, well, how did y'all sell so much? Well, we had history. A lot of people just buying cash flow, right? They didn't looking at, okay, they didn't want to do what we did, which was buy the building, renovate it, and put tenants in there. That's my specialty, that's my unique niche. I built a relationship, I did that, and I went through and did all this thing, did all that, but then the fact is, we made a 500% return on our money in 4 years. So people tell you that apartments are good. Location is the key. Make sure you buy, because if you buy in a bad location, bad property, it could be a really nice unit, but if it's in a bad location, it's gonna be there. Then you gotta figure out who your tenant gonna be. So we had a specific tenant that we looked for. I still, to this day, I work with a lot of the veterans that they work for me. I got a structure on me, said work for me, whatever it is. Some of the best guys I ever seen, you know, but I created a unique niche that most people didn't go after. You know, everybody's going after Section 8 tenants. I didn't want to go after Section 8 tenants. I wanted to go after older tenants because I felt like they were going to be left down. And it was exactly what I was looking for. Any questions? What's your name?
Sharonda.
All right.
Scruggs.
How you doing?
I'm okay. So, do you still offer monies for if you have to have an eviction?
Say it again.
I think I heard you say before that you offer people, your tenants, money
Oh, yeah.
if they don't mess up your property and
Cash-
leave in a certain time.
Cash the keys. So if I got to evict you,
Ask the question.
okay, the key is the fact is, do I offer tenants money to leave? Of course. Let me tell you the system. For everybody don't know how the eviction works. Let's say, for example, the day is July 1st, right? Anybody know what day the rent is due? Okay, perfect. So if they haven't paid by the 5th or the 6th or whatever date you got on there as being late, then it's considered late, right? But at that point in time, you're gonna send out a 7-day notice. Once the 7-day notice comes out, you can get the situation set up with the fact that now I can go ahead and file eviction. Well, it's gonna take another 15 days for them to be able to file the eviction. Of course, slow as heck these days. You might be lucky to get to them in 6 days. But think about it, if you're renting $1,000, not only did you lose $1,000 that you just didn't get, you lose $1,000 there, plus you gotta pay the court almost $1,000 to get them out. Then you gotta pay a dumpster to come sit in front of the building, that's $350. You gotta pay the bailiff $75 to $80 per room to come in there. Well, hey, man, look, you have a hard time. Let me give you $1,000 a day, man. You can be out by 15. Would that work for you? When do I sign? I control the tenant. See, people look at it from the standpoint of the fact that it's costing money, but saving me money. Because I can go through the system and I can wait 60, 90 days. But see, what also is this, I got a disgruntled tenant because he know I'm trying to evict you, right? So guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna damage that property. In my letter I give them for cash keys, it tells you the fact that it gotta be broom swept. I need to check all that stuff, make sure everything is there, then you get the check. So now I control, you gotta leave it in the middle of the night, my furnace house work takes time. I gotta meet you, get the keys. I control the situation. I'm changing the locks at the same time. Furnace in there, if I want to take it out, how work take, I got that. The property is going to be in the same condition I gave it to you when I looked at it, so I control the situation. Does that do it? Is it 100%? Full, no. But I say 90% of people, when I can offer you money to leave, and I'm not going to, and I tell them, and I know you probably should, hey, don't say no about that, you good tip. So now, I eliminate the process of me having to go 3 months without getting rent. I can get you rent in the first 30, 60 days. It don't work all the time, the majority of the time. I use that for. Now, the cash keys also work for if you ever do tax liens and you're trying to buy something like that. I do cash keys for that too. So you have a person in the house and they will move all from 2 months worth of rent, pay for $2,000. You can move in the next 30 days. I get a lot of houses. That's how we started. We started doing it when we buy tax auction houses, and they were always occupied. I couldn't figure out how to get them out. So I said, man, let me try cash keys. I wrote a little simple letter up. I pasted it on the door, took a picture of it, sent the picture back to them, and from that point, I started using it. That's why I use it for tenants too. So we started doing it for when we started buying. We buy tax auction houses every year. We couldn't get tenants out. I said, offer them cash keys. Guess what? It was working. We had like 85% success rate. I said, let me try it for my tenants, and it worked out too.
I usually buy them before they even leave, before they even lose the house.
Huh?
I said I usually buy them before they even lose the house and just let them know you're about to lose it. So why don't you let me get you $4,000 or $5,000 and just
That's
leave.
it. So the same thing with cash keys and whatever it is. You just want to be able to control the transaction. Because what happens when they leave in the middle of the night, they leave your house vacant, they leave it unattended, well, guess what? Somebody coming in the house. So if I get the keys and lock it up, I can take the furnace, I can take the hot water tank out, or whatever I need to do to secure it. That way, they cut my cost down. That $1,000 save me 30, 60, 90 days. I'm not worrying about it. Something's going to break in. Now I have out here. I give you $1,000. I take control of it.
You live there. Better than buying a
Ask the
vacant
question.
house from the land bank.
And like I say, anybody want it, I can get it to Mark, my cash key letter just changes, and it's just a little letter you send out. And I send it out, boom, I paste it on their door, and then I take a picture of it, and typically I do skip trace, so I got their phone number, whatever it is, and typically I can get that situation. My tenant, I already know what it is, I just send it to them, get that situation. But for if you buying, vacant houses and somebody in there, I offer to. So this is what I'm telling everybody: write your plan down, look at it on a daily basis, see if you weekly are you progressing toward it. Hey, did I get my LLC? Did I get my tax ID? Did I go look at any properties? Because what happens is it's not magic. It's just a plan. You write the plan down, you work on the plan. There's going to be some successes and failures in that plan, but then you plan it, you do it, and then you review it. That's the key to success. You plan whatever you want to plan, you do it, and then once you do it, look over a couple weeks and a couple months and say, okay, did this work? If not, what can I do to change it? It's just a few modifications. This plan I got now ain't the same plan I had when I bought my first 36 houses, because I didn't really have a plan. I just was like, okay, well, the bank giving me money, I need to take it. It sounds funny, but that's what I did. But after I had that barrier, I said, okay, well, let me do a little different. I was selective in what I bought. I figured out the situation. I figured out I don't need everything in my personal name, so I figured these things out after my first 36 houses. So that's failure ain't always final. It just, if you really want to be successful, it should educate you what not to do. So I figured out everything not to do in that particular situation.
Any other questions for Mr. Scruggs? All right, let's give him a round of, oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So I know it's like not that savvy of a question, but like when you own family flats, as far as with the water,
You can't.
so you always pay.
Okay, this is what you do like this. You can get it metered, right?
What was the question?
Okay, the water. Okay, if you got 2 family flats, and you always got to pay the water bill. Well, DT come out, they can give you a meter, right? And then that meter, it'll tell you what this person used and what that person used. So your plumber would have to come in, he would basically set up, and it'd be a separate meter, and it would read between this unit, because normally it's going to have 2 shutoffs, whatever it is, it's going to have 2 hot water tanks, whatever it is. It's going to show what each tenant do. The problem you have is you can't evict them because of the fact they ain't paid the water bill, because the water bill, if it's in their lease or whatever, it's there. But you can't shut the water off because the fact is the tenant downstairs is going to be affected by it, right? And you're not going to kick nobody out. So I'll just tell people, just increase the rent to cover that we don't have to worry about. Like my burn bill, we always have to pay the water bill. It's hard to separately meter each one of them, whatever it is. So that was just an expense we had. We had a boiler, one boiler. So we had to pay the utilities for that. But we had that price intensive situation. So the question was, if you had separate utilities, if you had a water bill and a 2-family flat, and you have a separate meter, yes, you can. It's hard to facilitate that because you can't cut the water off with the other person if they paying, so you really don't have any leverage on the situation. They don't pay, you can't cut the tenant, you can't just cut it off.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have anything that they would like to announce, like if you have any deals, any properties that you're looking for buyers for? All right, cool. Thank you very much for coming. We always have these free real estate training meetings the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Always here, always at 7 p.m. 3rd Tuesday, always free with a different speaker and a different topic. Thank you.